Do we need lights on?
I can start. Okay. I'm reading 2 poems tonight. The first one is probably the longest poem I've ever written. So,
I have ever written.
Hold on a second. It's 1890 and I love it.
Awesome.
I
Continue.
dream of the
We're setting
night.
us up for this
Why are we
poem.
not all wearing corsets?
I gave up. I just gave up.
No! I want to read it. I
Too
want
much
to
what
hear
the-
it.
Alright, open mic is over,
One or the
guys.
other.
You heard it?
Stop it, John.
And we're done. So bear with me, and I apologize if I have to pause at any point. It's called No Nun Can Silence the Slipping of a Mind. 4. Norman, my godmother's father-in-law. Handshakes and shins were my world, and my mother tells me we're saying goodbye to Tisu's father-in-law. I listen to Barney sing along in the car until the white pillars announce that we have arrived, and I watch the dress shoes stir the stains up from shag carpet and choke on the sticky, sweet air. Mint and mothballs leave my throat coated in chalk, and I reach for my mother's eyes when they begin to water. I am lifted into the realm of faces only to notice that my eyes aren't alone with their tears. 10. Alyssa's grandfather. We pile into a minivan of static silence. I sit in the middle seat that no one wants. I remember when to hand out tissues and when to hug. I bow my head while they pray. I'm the last one to leave the church. I sit in the middle seat that no one wants. And I never ask her about that day. How do you mourn a man that you've never met? 13. Esther, my grandmother. The first time I saw my father cry of sadness, he wasn't red in the face and the tears were not shallow. The priest was explaining the schedule for our celebration of life. We sifted through memories, scooping them like mashed potatoes onto his desk, each of us salivating for the release from his stuffy office. My aunt played honorary Catholic for the day, selecting passages to be read from the Bible. I composed my first poem to be read aloud, stared at the center of the back of the room, and projected like the lead in Hamlet. All that preparation, and my most vivid memory is still the smell of her bedpan. 14. George, my grandfather. 8 months later, he was still asking me if I wanted to talk to Grandma when I called. We didn't have the money to fly to Connecticut again so soon, but I see the white brick building, smell the stale flowers, and hear the hymns condemned to escorting the departed. How do you say goodbye from 1,400 miles away? 17. Rick, a family friend. He was my first basketball coach, and he introduced me to the meaning of feisty. When I purged my closet of City Rec memorabilia, I held on to that first season's jersey. 6 years later, my father's calling me. Are you sitting down? Maybe you should be. Do you remember Rick, the fire chief, Sarah and Kenny's father, your coach? He shot himself last Tuesday. They are having the services for him Saturday. How do you tell your father you don't remember? Walking past white pillars was starting to feel familiar, but we weren't expecting the entire fire station to be there or the rest of the department. We weren't expecting to watch his ex-wife console his mother. We weren't expecting to hear that Kenny had found his body, and we certainly weren't expecting a Catholic service. 19. Michael Jackson. I first heard the news over my walkie-talkie during the 100-meter freestyle. Within 2 minutes, the entire aquatic center was talking logistics. Drugs, 3 a.m., court cases, TV specials, parental rights, talk screens, re-released albums, faking it for money, had it coming. And then it was time for the lane switch for the 50-meter fly. 20. Frank, my father's brother. I hardly blinked at the news. My uncle wasn't someone I would have considered role model material, but between annual family breakfasts at the firehouse and riding on the truck every holiday parade, my brother had dug one out. I could hear him crying through the receiver. Droplets rolled over the microphone and he was drowning. The bubbles of emotion I could catch flooded the line with nonsense, and I was pulled by the current of remorse to hang on the line for hours. 21. Tom, my neighbor. I only have 2 parents, but when I moved to Florida, I inherited a 3rd set of grandparents. After 68 years together, Tom left Jackie's side. We part in the passing as going on to a better place, but his wife wouldn't let herself go anywhere for months. I called once, but without her hearing aid, she condemned my condolences and hung up on my hope. 22, Uncle George, my father's other brother. My dad grew up in a household of 6. His father, George, his mother, Esther, his 2 brothers, Frank and George, a sister, and himself. Only 3 of them are left. I found myself in Connecticut for the 2nd time to say goodbye. It's a lot harder when they can say goodbye back. The 2 of us sat in the basement while he told stories of his youth in the army, though he wasn't telling me. My body held still at attention, and until he pulls my ponytail, I'm 9 again. 9. That must be the last time my hair was long enough to pull. And the days passed without permission, and the minutes marched by. So soon it's time for him to rest, and I'm on the plane again, already missing the man I'll never see, mourning the living. My dad grew up in a family of 6. Only 2 of them are left. 22. Cindy, Casey's mother. Loss was the kind of grandmother that only let us call her Nana on a good day. It was the woman that only drank protein shakes from Starbucks if I called them smoothies. It was walking out of our first apartment because we didn't put the couch where she wanted it. It was treating dogs like children to fill an empty nest. It was panic attacks at 3 a.m. over wet laundry and messy bookshelves. It was toddlers in tiaras on marathon. It was being told that I would look way prettier without my lip ring. It was a Dewey Decimal System of Christmas decorations. 25 boxes, numbered and color-coded. Loss is spending more time in a church than when I went through confirmation classes. It is having too many flower arrangements for a 4-bedroom house. It is telling her I got home safe from the bar last Thursday night. It is calling to talk to her on my way home from work 8 months later, and instead listening to her last voicemail, even though we were arguing that day. Loss is not talking about her until I've had 2 beers, too many to form sentences. It's apologizing. It's blaming yourself. It's cooking dinner for your father once a week. It's preparing a eulogy at age 23, and it's not crying when you read that eulogy. Loss will be unpacking ancient Christmas decorations and finding popcorn from 1983. It will be falling apart when you drive past 21st century oncology. It will be standing my ground in arguments that I know I'm losing. It will be changing the station when Jim Croce plays on the radio, raising my grandchildren with only one grandmother, and lighting a candle every August 8th. Loss will be burning the rolls every Thanksgiving for the rest of my life.